Hello, and welcome to this lesson on using GDS. In this lesson, we're going to take a bid, and we're going to complete the bid using GDS and as many aspects of GDS as we can in this bid to show you how it all works. Now, I believe in not showing you on the screen how to do it, but having you pull up your screen and instructing you through it, and you will prepare the bid on your GDS. Now, if you haven't already downloaded the free trial of GDS or you don't have it, go to winbidpro.com and download the GDS 30-day free trial version. And once you've done that, download the VistaWall Catalog 2011R. Now, if you haven't done that yet, then just pause this right now and go ahead and download that and bring up GDS. If you've never gone through it before, the previous lesson shows you how to download it, how to set it up, and get it ready for your use. So if you haven't taken that lesson and you don't have GDS, you should take that lesson before you take this one, because we won't recover those areas now. Now we're going to do a bid using a set of plans that we used in lesson number 1, 2, and 3 in doing an estimate by hand. And those of you that took that course are going to see how much easier GDS is than doing that. So I want you to get all your materials ready, pull up GDS, log in, and bring up your first GDS page. You're going to go to the VistaWall catalog when it comes up and asks you what, and then you're going to go to the jobs. It'll take you to the jobs, and you're going to go down the bottom of the jobs menu, and there'll be a button at the bottom that says Add New. Now here's where you're going to add new, and you can name this whatever you want, test program or whatever, or you can look at the set of plans that you've got there and take the name off of that and name it that way. I always name them what the project is for my own benefit. Now when you logged in, if you logged in under your name, every document that you produce off of this will have your name on it, so you know who produced the bid. Okay? So take a minute now and pull up GDS, and when it asks you for which vendor you want to use, you're going to use VistaWall 2011R. If you already have GDS but you don't have that new VistaWall catalog loaded, then go to winbidpro.com now too and download that catalog. Now once you've gotten to there, you can pause here if you haven't done that and then start it again. Alright, now after you've gotten to the vendor screen and you've selected VistaWall 2011R, it's going to bring up a job screen. Now at the job screen, you're going to have all the jobs that are under that catalog, and since there aren't any now, this is the first one. So you're going to go to the bottom of the job screen, and there'll be a button that says Add New. Now when you click that, it's going to let you add this new job to the job screen. Okay, so click Add New, and you see it brings up a dialog box. And in the dialog box, what they're going to ask you for is the name of the project and the finish of the material. Okay, so in the job box, that's what you're going to do. So now we're going to pause right here, and we're going to go load up the set of plans so we can get basic information before we go further at this point. Okay. So now I want you to pull up the jobs, the plans that came with this download, and it is a permit set, training set number 1, and you can scroll down it because it's all on one PDF file. All the pages are in one PDF file. So go ahead and pull up the plans now. Okay, now you've pulled up the plans, so you have all the plans in there. You can just scroll down to get to each page. Okay, this is not a large set of plans, but it's got enough stuff on there for us to use it to do this lesson with. Now you'll notice if you look to the side there, it'll tell you the name of the project is Burn Reconstruction. Okay, that's the way I would name it in the window that you've got up. Okay, under the jobs. All right, so in that window I would put in Burn Reconstruction as the name of it, and then underneath there's a little box that says a type of material, and when you click that arrow on the right, it'll give you the options of what you can put in there. Well, we know by looking at the plans, I'm going to tell you this now so you can put the finish is clear anodized. But what we're going to do now is go into the plans, and you'll know if you're doing bids that from the specs and from the plans themselves is where you get this kind of information. What's the material finish? What kind of material you're going to use? Okay, so let's look at the plans now. Leave your GDS where it is, and let's pull the plans up and look at them. Because now I'm going to get basic information that I use. If you've never done an estimate before and you haven't taken lesson 1, 2, and 3, this lesson's not going to do you much good, because it's going to give you how to use GDS, but it's not going to help you in certain things you need to know of why you're doing what you're doing. Okay? So one of the first things that I need to know is, just like any other takeoff, how many elevations do I have of each page? We know from the cover page that the symbol for the window elevations is a diamond. Inside the diamond will be a letter. And we know that for all doors the symbol is a circle, and inside the circle will be a number. Now this is a small project, but it's got a lot of good elevations in it for us to work with. So now, knowing that, we go to page A 3.0 to the floor plan so that we can count and make sure we've got all of our elevations and all our doors. Now we notice that doors 1 through 6, we know that 2 of those doors are storefront because they're in a storefront elevation. But one of those doors, we don't know if the other 4 doors, any of those are aluminum storefront doors. But we know right here, so from the floor plan we're going to count the window elevations. And we can find there that there's 1 of each. As you look at the floor plan, you'll see that there's 1 of each. Just count them all around the building. There's nothing inside, everything is exterior. Okay? Now we know that there's 1 of each. We're going to go to the, if you can look at the exterior elevations to get a better idea if those are storefront doors in those elevations or not, But we're going to go to page A 8.1 because that's the door and window schedule. And this is where I would go next. I go there and look at my elevations, and I see I've got my window elevations there. 2 of them have doors in them. At the top left-hand corner, I have a door schedule, which tells me if I look at them all, there's 6 doors, and the types are type A, and out to the side of 3 of those, 1, 3, and 6, it says aluminum storefront door. When I look down at the bottom right-hand corner of the page, I see the type A door is a narrow style door with a 12-inch bottom plate. They're 4-inch side rails and 4-inch top rails, so it's a narrow style door. Now if I look underneath the door schedule on the top left again, I see hardware. So they have hardware for interior doors, which we don't have any interior doors. And have hardware for exterior doors. So I, at this point, would either take a snapshot of that with PDF and save it to another page I'm going to use, or I would just write down on Scratchpad what hardware I need for each door. And you can see here that they want brushed aluminum 8-inch pulls, they want the mortise bearing ball hinges, they want a deadbolt 2.5 inches, and they want a Doormatic door closer, or equal. So I write that down so I can use it as I'm building my job in GDS. Alright, now I look over at the elevations, and since this plan doesn't have a set of specs to go with it, that means the specs are all in the plans themselves. So I need to know what type of material I'm using. So the easiest way for me to do that is look at a detail, and if I look there on one of those elevations, I'll show a detail is at page A 8.2 number 9. Now if I go to A 8.2 number 9 and look it up, it's going to show me a really wide profile mullion. However, in the box it says typical 2-inch. So we know that this is a 2 by 4.5 inch system, regardless of how the architect drew it, because you know architects. So we know it's a 2-inch by 4.5 inch system, and it doesn't say whether it's thermally broken or not, so I would build it thermally broken and not non-thermal. Okay. Alright, go back to page A 8.1. Now in there, the next thing I do is I create the information I need for my GDS. Alright, now I already know I'm using a 2 by 4.5 inch clear anodized finish system. And I know that because it says in the box up there in the middle of those elevations, there's a box that says is clear anodized finish aluminum storefront. And it's glazed with a dual pane low E, silver tinted glass. Now I need to write that down too, because when we get going in here, that's one of the things we're going to do is adjust our glass table to make sure we have that glass in our glass table. So when we produce our glass list for a quote, it gives a description of the glass. Okay. Now, we've covered all of that. One other thing that I'll do right here, I usually take a scratch sheet and I take elevation A and I write down certain things. I know at elevation A it's 2 panels because it's got 1 vertical, so each section between a vertical is a panel in GDS. So I know it's got 2 panels, so I'll write 2 panels, and I will write that it is you do the width first and then the height. So I'd write down what the width is and find the height and write that down. Then I see that that this particular one has 2 horizontals. So I will write down under I'll put, they say HORZ, and that's for a horizontal, and I'll put at what height those horizontals are. Now you'll notice on here he's got the line for the height of the horizontal at the top of the horizontal. Well, GDS does the height of the horizontal at the bottom of the horizontal. So in this case, it's showing us a number. We're going to subtract 2 inches from that because we got a 2-inch profile for each horizontal. All right. If the architect does it from the bottom, then you're fine. And this matters because it's going to develop, this program will develop exactly what sizes of glass you need for this frame when you build it. So I write that down. Now I go do the same with each other elevation. Now that's just one thing I do. You can go back and forth, have GDS and have these plans sitting there right beside it and just go back to them. And I usually leave them up when I'm doing it in case I wasn't sure what I wrote down. But if you make this plan page half size and stick it behind GDS, it will be there and you can just pull it up anytime you need to look at it while you're building it. So now we've got the information we need, so let's go back to GDS, and you've got your page of the name of the project and what the finish is. So put in clear in that box underneath that asks you what the finish is. And then when you click OK, it's going to bring up the first elevation that it wants you to do. And it's going to bring up an elevation box. So this is where we go in and we decide, okay, it'll ask us for the elevation name. Well, the first elevation you're going to do is A, so you're going to put A. And then underneath there's a little button that says framing system. Now, right now it has nothing. If you try to say OK there, it's going to say you didn't select a framing system. So what you want to do is click that button that says framing system, and it brings up the catalog. Okay, now once you've put that in, you're gonna select framing system. There's a button underneath the name of the elevation. You're going to select framing system. That's going to bring up a catalog of all the framing systems that VistaWall has. Well, at least most of them. Sometimes you might have to add an oddball one, but for this. Now what we're going to do is, we know that this is a 2 by 4.5 inch profile. Okay, so if we look over here on the profiles, it'll show us the 1 3/4, the 2 inch, and whatever we need here. But so we're doing 2 by 4.5, and we're going to do the Series 3000 multiplane because it's thermally broken. So this appears to be a front set. Okay, so you're going to do an outside glaze front set screw spline, which is number 11. Okay, it says 3000 series multiplane front set. I'm sorry, not front set. You're going to do an outside glaze. Outside glaze, which is number 10. So Series 3000 storefront thermal multiplane front set outside glaze shear block. And it says it's a 2-inch profile and the glass is outside, offset. Okay, it's an outside system and it's offset, the glass. So what you do is you go over here into that gray column on the left hand side and you click number 10 and it highlights the whole number 10. And down in the bottom right hand corner there's a select button. And when you hit select, it also puts that number 10 framing ID in that box you were in. Now as soon as you say OK on this box, it's going to bring up your elevation building system. Alright, now looking at the plans on A8.1, we noticed in that box it's had a type of glass. You wrote that down, remember? So I want you to go up here to the left hand side of your screen. You should be looking at a WinBid Pro screen that says VistaWall Old Castle at the top, 2011R. It'll have a bar on the left-hand side showing all the different options that you can do. It'll have a big black screen in the middle at the top that says new elevation, enter number of panels, width and height data below. Use the tab key to move through the next field. Okay. What we're going to do first is up at the top here, underneath help, it says glass table. We're going to click the glass table. And what you're going to look at here is this is 1 inch low E silver tinted glass. Now, it's probably not in your glass table. So let's add it. So down at the bottom there it says add new. When you click that, you get this dialog box that says add or edit glass table parts. Okay? So at the top you see a description. So you want to type in the description that you want to show on your quote list of what type of glass it is. Well, the only thing we have to go by is that it's a double pane, low E, silver tinted glass. So we're going to put that in there. You're going to type in double pane, low E, silver tinted glass. Okay. Now underneath here it has a box that says color. Show label. It's only if you're going to use labels, and I don't think you want to do that on this case. But on the color, you're going to put in silver tint. Okay. Now underneath that, we're going to do tempered here on all of this. Okay. You can do it. You need to set up 2 sets of this if you're going to do tempered or anneal, because this one we're going to set up as tempered. If you want to use tempered and anneal and the stuff that's high up, you want to use anneal instead of tempered, then you redo this whole thing we're doing with the silver, just click annealed instead of tempered. So here, we want tempered, so you click the down arrow there and go down to tempered, click that to go in. Now we've got the size. Well, we know that this is dual pane, so it's insulated glass. So you're going to go to the down arrow and go to number 3, which says insulated glass. Alright, now on the left hand side again, under show label, it's going to say is it insulated. You're going to click that box. Underneath that says thickness. You're going to put a 1. Okay? Price, if you know what the price is, you can put it in. But it will only help you getting a budget number before you get your actual quote, because I always quote everything. I don't go by the budget numbers I had from before. You don't worry about the minimum, you don't worry about discount or any of that. If you want to put a supplier that's in there, you can put that on there too, and that should show up on your glass list too. So like if it's PPG and a number, or Viracon or something like that, you can put that here. Okay? Once you've got all that, you say OK. Alright? Once you said OK, it adds that glass and gives it a number. Okay? So what you can do is you can search these by glass ID, or you can search them by description. If you click at the top of that glass table box and you click search by glass ID, if you put a 1 in there, it'll give them in there 1. If you put in, like, say you know it's in the 90s or something, so you do 9, it'll bring up all the 90s first so that you can see them. Okay, and then you look down, oh well, look, it's 94. That's the one. And so you can highlight that when you're adding your glass. But we'll get to that more when we add the glass in. So you can close that page now. So now what you're going to do, you notice you've already got your system set up for elevation A. And remember I told you it'd be a good idea to keep the plan page up if you didn't go through and mark by hand what you wanted. Okay? So I usually bring the plan page up in a half size, and then I zoom in on it until I get the one elevation that I want big enough that I can see it. See? So I'm going down to elevation A now, and I'm putting that up first because that's the first one we're going to do. And so I make it just big enough so it covers my whole page, but I can see everything and all the numbers. Okay? So what you're going to do first is every time you click this box on, every time you click the GDS pane, it will move that page to the back. So I move it up a little bit above the GDS pane so I can pull it forward if I ever need to look at it. But we already know that this thing is 6 feet wide, and we know that it's 9 feet high, and we know it's 2 panels, all right, and there's 1 of it. So the first question it asks you at the bottom of your GDS page is you'll see there's the big black screen. Underneath that are the draw, the previous elevation those, and underneath that it says elevation quantity, and there shows a 1. Well, what you do is put one finger on the tab key, because now you're gonna build the basis of this elevation. So you always say how many quantity you got? You got 1. You got 1. Put 1 in there. and then tab, it goes to the next panel. How many panels do we have? We have 2, remember? Alright, once you put the 2 in there, then you hit the tab, it'll take you to the width. Now we know the width is 6 foot. So you can do, this will always do it in inches. So you could do 72 inches, or if it says 6 foot, say it was 6 foot 2, you'd put 6 and then use the foot marker over here, the apostrophe, after that. So you do 6 apostrophe 2. That would be 6 feet 2 inches, and when you do it, you'll see it'll show up 74 inches. Because after you do it, if you do it in feet so you don't have to try and figure what it is, it'll figure it for you. So we know that this is 6 feet, so you do 6 apostrophe and then hit the tab button. And we know that it is 9 feet, so do the 9 apostrophe and a tab. So now you see you came up, you got an elevation with the quantity of 1, number of panels 2, 72 inches wide and 108 inches high. Okay, now always see these tabs underneath where right now we're in layout. Underneath those tabs we do everything in order so that everything's done right. So if we don't have a splice in this, and we don't have a door, but we do have unequal panels, right? Because that first panel, it shows that it is 1 foot 10 inches inside diameter of the first panel, of the panel to the right. The first panel looking from the left is 4 foot 2 inches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just adjust one of those panels and it will adjust the rest of it. So we go to unequal at the bottom tab. You see it there? It says layout, splice, doors, unequal. And you click that tab. Then it brings up a box that says, what do you want to do, add or delete? Well, we want to add an unequal panel. Now, we're only going to change one of these panels. So you'll see the line underneath, change panel number, and you can either select panels, or if you don't select panels, it'll make all the panels the same size. Okay? So click select panel. We know, if you look at that screen now, you'll see panel 1 and 2. We're going to adjust panel 2 to 1 foot 10 inches. So when you got your screen up here for select panel, click the box that says panel 2. Only panel 2. Get a check in that box and then hit OK. Now down here after it says change panel numbers to a width of, you highlight that 0 so that you can type over it, and this said 1 foot 10 inches, so you're going to do 1 apostrophe 10. Okay? And then once you've got that in there, you go over here to the right on the bottom, it says add to drawing, and you're going to go and add that in. Now, did you see it change the figure? And it moved that vertical over so your panel is what it should be. Okay? And the other panel is what it should be, right? It said 4.2. This one says 22 inches. Yeah, we're right because it's got that in there. All right. Now, looking at the bottom, we don't have any windows in there. We don't have a step. We don't have a rake. And we don't have an arch. We don't have a bulkhead. What a bulkhead means, Jay, we're going to do a bulkhead, so I'll walk you through that on that. The height, all right, a step is if you were stepping down or up from one panel to another, okay? And a rake, of course, is a slope. You can do a rake on the top, you can do a rake on the bottom. You can, if you've got a floor plan where the ground goes up and you have to rake the bottom of your panels, you can do that. And you do that with rake. Arch is if you're going to have an arch on the top. Arch works well for giving you a drawing, but since they haven't been able to put the rays in the arches yet to get cuts of glass, it won't give you a complete cut. It'll give you the glass for that one arch opening with no dividers in between. Okay, so it's good to get you a total glass count, but it won't be individual. And you know if those are small, the smaller the piece, if it's not at least 4 square feet or something like that, you get an extra charge on it. So you do have to be careful there with that. But use the arch for your drawings and everything else. Now the bulkhead is from the bottom, and we're going to do that on J so you can see. The height would be, say this is going into a section of glass, but the glass around it is at 9 feet, and this particular one's only going up 8 feet. Then you could hit the height button and it'll do the same thing for you. So you want to add a height and you say yes. I want to add a height, You click that, it would say selected panels. You'd say yes, selected panels, and click 2. And then in this particular one, you'd say panel 2's height is only 8 feet instead of 9. So if you did that, it would lower this panel's top down a foot. Okay, and it would adjust all of the framing you need and all of the parts you need to adjust to that. Okay, but since we don't need anything like that, we're going to go directly to horizontals. Now, when you click the horizontal things, it's the same thing. It'll ask you want to add a horizontal. Now, since these horizontals, according to the plans, are going all the way across, and he's got it at the top of the horizontal at 2 feet, and then it is 9 feet. Let me look at this real quick. It is 5 feet 2 inches to the top of the next horizontal. So to show you how this goes, the first horizontal is going to be at 22 inches. Okay, so you notice we got first horizontal down here at the bottom as the little box is marked. Select the type of horizontal. It's horizontal number 1. We're going to add horizontal to a height of, and here we want to go with inches because we figured that. So put in 22 and say add to drawing. Okay, now for the next horizontal, you're going to have to add the 22 inches. That's where the bottom is. So the top is at 24. Okay, then you're going to go. You have to add the 2 feet to the 5 foot 2 for the top of the next horizontal and subtract 2 inches. So that makes sense to you because he went to the top instead of the bottom? Okay, so we're going to start that next horizontal, and we're not going to select any panels because we're doing all the panels. So we're going to add 5 feet to 2 feet, 5 feet 2 to 2 feet, and then subtract 2 inches, which gives us 7 feet. So you can either do 7 apostrophe in this box now, or you can do the 84 inches. So 84 inches will tell us where the next horizontal goes. When you put that in and hit add to drawing, now there's your horizontals. Okay? Now, when we look at that, we've got the horizontals exactly where they're supposed to be. We've got everything else, so all we have to do now is put glass in it, right? So we go to glass, the last tab, and then we find in here the dual pane. So if you go down to the D's, you'll find this dual pane. You select that glass that we put in there, the dual pane silver tinted, low E. Okay. Click, highlight that box, and then you'll see it says over on the left at the bottom, it says add by row. You click each row, and it'll put a T in those boxes. And that means it has added each of these panes of glass, the sizes and everything else to your list. Okay? So now you've completed one elevation. Alright? Now we're going to do the same thing with the other elevations. Okay? Now, the next elevation we go to, of course, is B with a door. So this is the one we're going to do next because it will do it all for you, and we'll go through that. Then we're going to go through each elevation and build them all so that you're comfortable with how it goes. If you've got a handle on it and you want to keep going without me, then you can go ahead and do them and skip this part. Okay? Now we're going to the next elevation, and you'll notice on your the bottom part of the screen on the GDS, it has the tabs at the bottom. So you want to go back to Layout, the very first tab, and click Layout. That'll take you back to where your complete picture is, that you have everything that you've done. Now you'll see right underneath the elevation drawing, you'll see a bar that says Previous Elevation, and then there's lines between them. It'll say Next Elevation. So what you're going to do now is click Next Elevation. It's going to give you a clean drawing screen for you to start with again. So now it'll also bring up the dialog box that asks you for the name of the elevation. Well, now since the next elevation in the package is B, I want you to look up at elevation E, Echo, because it is exactly the same size and dimensions of B. So in this case, in the name, you can type in B and use the ampersand for and E, and it will accept that as the name of this elevation. Alright, so go ahead and type that in. Now you're going to use the same framing system, so you don't have to change that again. You don't have to click framing system and go in and pick the framing system because it tells you it's using the same one. You only change that if you're going to use a different framing system. Now what you need to do here is go down to the bottom where it has the elevation quantity and number of panels and that, and we're going to look at this. Notice the difference in B. We've got 3 panels this time. Now the first thing you're going to do is create the drawing basically with 3 panels and the sizes, and then we'll go along the tabs at the bottom. We'll add the other things in, and it will move those. When we put the door in, it'll move those panels out, move those verticals out, okay, to the correct place. Now you'll notice that the horizontals are in the same place for both B and E. So what we're going to do, remember we were doing 22 inches for the bottom horizontal and 7 feet for the top horizontal, okay? Now these doors are 3070s according to the door schedule, so we're going to take a standard door there. So let's build it first. So first you've got the elevation quantity. Well, since we're doing B and E, you're going to say elevation quantity is 2. Okay? Then tab, which will take you down to the number of panels, and in the number of panels you're going to put 3 instead of 2. Alright? And then when you tab, it'll take you up to the width. So you can see on the elevation page on A8.1 that the width is 7 feet 5.5 inches. So you can either do that 7'5.5, or you can do it out in inches yourself. 84 plus the 5.5 gives you 89.5. But however you do it, put in 7 feet, so it'd be 7'5.5. It gives you a 1/2 inch, okay? And then when you tab that, it'll take you down the height, and the height is the same on all of them. It's 9 feet. So you do 9', and then tab again, and it'll draw that basic drawing for you. And so you'll see on the screen the basic drawing, 7.5 feet wide, 9 feet high, with 3 panels. So you have 2 verticals. Alright, now since we're not going to worry about unequals in here, because once we put the door in, it's going to make those 2 side panels the same distance because they're equal distance, okay? So go on the bottom panels, the bottom tabs until you see door, and click the tab for door. Now you'll see it'll ask you, what do you want to do? Do you want to add an entrance? So you say click the add the entrance, click add the entrance, and then it'll bring up another screen underneath the drawing which asks you what panel is the door going to go into. So you put in this, because we're going to put it in the center, it'll be panel 2. You see at the bottom of the drawing each panel number is numbered 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to put 2 in which panel it goes in, okay? And then it's going to ask you to select a frame. So you click that button that says select frame, and when it's going to bring up a list of different frames for you. So this is a left-hand door, so you're going to look on those descriptions until you see the one that is a narrow style left-hand door with as close to the dimensions that they've asked for there, because they don't have a 12-inch bottom plate standard. We're going to fix that when we adjust the door. So click, it should be 98. When you see that ID number 98, then highlight it, and at the bottom press select. Now it'll put that door frame in, and it'll move those verticals out on your drawing up there, okay? So you'll see that it did that. Now the next thing it's going to ask you to do is, the next button is select, I'm sorry, you were selecting a door frame, so you wanted a left-hand door frame. Now the next thing it's going to ask you to do is select the door leaf. So you click that again, and it'll bring up the leaves. And you select the left-hand 36 by 84 narrow style. Alright, now once you've highlighted that one, click select, and it'll put that door in the drawing. Okay, now we have to adjust some things on that door. So if you go over to the layout button and click layout again, it'll take you back to the main setting. Then click door again. Now when you come there, you'll see on the right hand side in that bottom section underneath the drawing will be edit door frame, edit door leaf. So you're going to edit the door leaf because the door frame is going to stay the same. But what we're going to do to that door leaf is we're going to add a 12-inch bottom plate, and we're going to add 4-inch side rails and a 4-inch top rail. So you'll see that once you click that edit, it brings up a screen for you that says you can edit the door frame or you can edit the door leaf. So we're going to edit the door leaf, and down at the bottom you're going to see where it says the bottom rail is so many inches. You're just going to highlight that 10 inches and change it to 12. And then on the rails, side rails, and the top rail, the stiles, you're going to adjust those to 4 inches. So just change them right there to 4 inches. It'll automatically change it within the system. Okay. Now once you've done that, I'm going to show you one other thing here that you can do. You remember we have hardware. Now I don't advocate using their hardware system because it's very time consuming. And I always make my hardware list up separately and send it with my parts list, because I want to get prices from hardware supplier as well, because I'm probably going to get a better price. Okay, but I'll show you how you can do it. So if you look down at the bottom of that screen that we're looking at, there's in red, it says right click here to get parts list. So if you bring your cursor down to that red line and click the right click, it'll bring up a screen for you. And up on the right you're going to see there's a hardware list. Now that'll give you a list of everything that's in there under Dormers America. Okay? But when you're looking at your hardware at your parts list, you just simply have to go through it until you find the panic bar, the pulls, the deadbolt lock, and all of that. And when you find it, say you find a C-pull that you like that's 8 inches, you highlight that and click Insert Part. Now, remember, there's one thing I need to tell you first. When you go to that, before you go to this list of hardware, you're going to have to put your cursor up and fill in a part under the door leaf. There'd be an empty space there, and you want to put your cursor in one of those empty spaces, so that when you insert part from here, it'll put it in that empty space. Now you know how to do it, so I'm not going to carry through with it here because I don't use this part. I think it's more time consuming and helpful here, and just making a separate hardware list is easier to do and protects you better. So now we go back to the screen. Go ahead and say OK on that bottom part to close it. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go put our horizontals in. So we go to the tabs across the bottom until we see horizontals. Now you'll notice you have two tabs. One says EQ horizontals and one says horizontals. So we're not using equal horizontals, because if we were doing that, that'd mean that the window would be set and everything would be equal. And when you click that and add, it'll just ask you how many horizontals you want, and it'll put them equal distance apart. Since these aren't equal distance apart, so we go straight to horizontal tab. Now when you click the horizontal tab, it's just like before. You're going to ask for the first horizontal, and you're going to put in there 22 inches. And then you're going to say add to drawing. That button there, add to drawing. And then it's going to ask you if you want any more, and you're going to go in that part and put 7 apostrophe for 7 foot. And then you're going to click add to drawing. Now you'll see that the horizontals have been put in around the door. So the last thing we do with this then is go get the glass, correct? So we go to the glass tab, click the glass tab, and when you find your silver tinted dual pane low E glass that you put in your glass table, you click that, and then you take the cursor up on the drawing and you apply where you want that glass to go. Okay, so that way you can use that too when you're doing different types of glass in one system. So now remember, after you've added it in there, you have to go to add by light and put the glass in the door, because you're putting the same glass in the door. They didn't ask for 1/4 inch in the door. They asked for the same glass. Now once you've done that, then you go back to layout. Now we have to go through all the other elevations, and we'll do them the same. Now I'm going to take you through each other elevation as we do this. So let's start. Now we've done A, B, and E. Okay, now we're going to start with C now. And on C, you'll notice that it's the same basic design. But remember now, where the architect has his lines for the dimensions of the interior dimensions, you'll notice in C, on the right hand upper corner, it says that dimension in between that vertical and the jamb is 1 foot 10 inches. But he's marked it from the inside of the vertical to the outside of the jamb. So you want that interior dimension actually to be 2 inches less than that 1'10". So you're going to be 1'8" there. And the same with the other. Well, when you do one, it'll fix the other. So when we do the unequals, we're only going to do it on this one panel, and it will fix the rest of it, because you work from the drawing with the outside dimensions, from the outside of the jamb to the outside of the jamb, and from the top of the head to the bottom of the seal. Okay? So in C, now what you're going to do is go back to the layout page, if you didn't already, and go next elevation, which is going to give you a clean picture to make another drawing with. So now we're going to go through the same steps that we have with all the other elevations, except we don't have any more doors in these. Okay, so so for C, we're talking 7 feet 8.5 inches wide, and all of them are 9 feet high. So the difference is in how wide they are. Now you notice C has the smaller panel on the right, and D has a smaller panel on the left. Now you could look through the others to see if any of them are the same size, but I think it's more important that you get practice at doing these. So we're going to go right through them real quick, and you follow along. Now if you found that you can do them without going with me, then go ahead and take off and do them. But under C, so you're going to get your screen up, your dialog blocks. You're going to put in elevation C as the name, same frame, so say OK. And then when it comes up, we've got a quantity of 1. We've got 2 panels. So put the 2 in, put the 1 in the elevation quantity, hit the tab, put the 2 in the panels, hit the tab. Then you're 7 feet 8.5 inches at the top. So it's 7 apostrophe 8.5. And then you tab that, it'll take you to the height, which is 9 apostrophe. When you tab that, it'll give you your basic drawing with 2 panels, right? Now, the next key you're going to go to tab at the bottom is the unequals. Now, when you click the unequals, it's going to ask you if you want to add an unequal, and you say yes. Now this time you're going to select a panel, and you're going to select panel 2. So where you see that in the middle of underneath the drawing there where it says select a panel, you click that and check the box for number 2. So you can highlight it and it won't check. You've got to get your cursor in that box. Now, once you've done that, it'll come back and say how big. Well, you remember, because of the way the architect did that, the inside of one vertical to the outside of the jamb, we're going to take 2 inches off of that figure he's got up there, because this program will do it of what is the inside dimensions. Okay? So you're going to put 1 apostrophe 8. You're going to hit add to drawing, and it's going to move that vertical over for you. Next thing we're going to do is go to horizontals. We know all the horizontals are at 22 inches and 7 feet. So you click the horizontal tab, you say you want to add, and then the first one, since it's going all the way across, you say 22. Okay, and then you're gonna add to drawing. Then after it comes up again, you're gonna highlight the quantity box on that, and you're gonna say 7 apostrophe. And now, once it's done that, you click add to drawing. Then you're gonna go to your glass tab, and you're gonna pull up the glass tab and put in your glass in all of these panes. So you can do this by row, and it'll, as you click one row, it'll put it in all the openings. Once you've done that, go back to layout, do the process over again. You go next elevation, D, put D in the name, say OK, it's same framing system, and this time you have 7 foot 5.5 inches wide. Same problem, except that the unequals is on the left hand side instead of the right, so it's in panel 1 instead of panel 2. So let's go in. We've got elevation quantity of 1. We've got 2 panels, so you put 1 in elevation quantity, tab, 2 in the panel quantity, tab, and 7 foot 7 apostrophe 5.5, tab, 9 apostrophe, tab. Now unequals first. You remember, you're going to take 2 inches off of here because the architect did the same thing. He went from the outside of the jamb to the inside of the vertical. And so when you add your unequals, you're going to select panel 1. You're only going to do it to panel 1, okay? And when it comes up, you put 1 apostrophe 8, or 20 inches, if you want to put it in inches. It'll convert it to inches once you do it anyway. Same thing again, the horizontals. Go to the horizontal tab and do first horizontal at 22, and then the next horizontal at 7 apostrophe. Then go to the glass tab and put the glass in all the frames. Alright, that brings us up. We already did E because we did it with the door. So now we're going to go over here, and the next elevation then is F. F, we've got F, G, H, and J to go. Alright. Now I think you can do these, so I'm going to run through them very quickly as we do them. So F, 7'8", G is 7'6", and well, we notice that H is 7'8" too. So we can do that one time and use quantity of 2 because it is the same, and the unequals is on the same left side, panel 1. So, and if for F, we're going to do elevation quantity is 2, panels are 2, and then you're going to give the dimensions 7 feet, so it's 7'8", and tab, and then it's 9'. That gives you a basic drawing. Now you're going to do the unequals tab so that you can put this narrower panel in here. Just like we did before, it's 1 foot 8 inches instead of 1 foot 10, but you go to the unequals, select panels, select panel number 1, and then put in 1'8", 1 foot 8 inches. Alright, now horizontals, we're going to go through that, and the same thing again. We got horizontals at 22 inches and we got horizontals at 7 foot. So go back to the horizontal tab, add, horizontal, 22, add to drawing, 7', add to drawing. Okay, now that takes us to G. So now we've done every one of these up here except G and J. So let's do G, the last one. Then I'm going to show you some things you can do with G that we won't use in this, but just so I can run you through the different tabs, okay? So here we've got 7'6" inches. So we got a quantity of 1, 2 panels, all right? 7'6", tab, 9', tab. Now you go to unequals, you're going to do the 1 foot 8, but it's going to be on the right, so it's panel 2 instead of panel 1, okay? So same thing we went through. So you want to add an unequal, and you click the select panels and you check the box for panel 2, okay, and then you put in the 1'8" in the size and say add to drawing. Then we go to the horizontals and we put those in. So we've got a 22-inch horizontal. It's going to go to horizontal tab, add horizontal. Horizontal number 1 is 22 inches. Add to drawing. Then you're going to put 7', add to drawing. Okay. Now you've got that built. Let's before we go to glass, let's play with this one a little bit. Let's look at the tabs across the bottom, and what you've got here is a lot of different things that you can do. We've already done the doors. We haven't done a splice, but if you're in a real tall section, 40 feet of curtain wall or something, you might have to have splices along the way. And this is where you put a splice in, and it's self-explanatory on how to do it. Window is another thing. If you're going to have a window in a section instead of glass, you'll click the window. It will tell you, it'll bring up a screen for you to set a window in. Okay. Now you'll say add. You want to add a window, and then it'll ask you, okay, add a window from what panel? So let's say we're going to put a window right there in that panel next to the door, in panel number 1. All right, in the middle panel. Okay, so you're going to say from panel 1 to panel 1. The window height is 7 feet because that's the bottom of that horizontal at the top. The window from a height of 24 inches, which is the top of that bottom horizontal, to a height of 7 foot, which is the bottom of the other horizontal. Okay, and then when you say add a drawing, it's going to put a line in here to show that the window frame is going in there. Okay, now all you do is once you've added it to the drawing, then you're going to put a different kind of glass in there probably, but you won't put the same, unless it calls for the same glass, you won't put that in there because normally a window is going to come made with glazing in it. May not, but you can get them that way. So you'll go ahead and put your glass in just like you normally would at the next step. Okay, so now we're going to go to the arch. So when you go to the next tab, which is arch, to bring it up, say add an arch. All right, let's add an arch to the top of this thing. We're going to do it a fairly simple way. The arches are okay because they do give you the metal that you need, but right now they haven't added spars going up for verticals or anything like that so that you can put those in. But let's say we're going to do an arch from panel 1 to panel 3, and the radius of that arch from the top is going to be 60 inches. Okay, so put 60 in the radius and then say add to drawing. Now, once you add that to the drawing, you see it put an arch in on top up there. And it gave you all the dimensions and everything else. It gave you what you needed for it. It's something that you can use as you get going, and you can find out how best it is to use it for you. But that's how you do it. You put the radius in, or you can put the height that you want it to be above the column. And if you get too big, it'll say, hey, you can't do that. Okay. So delete that now, and it'll bring it back the way it was. And now we're going to go to bulkhead. Now we're going to go through bulkhead on J when we do J. So let's not talk about that now. We'll do it on J. Height is similar to bulkhead, only it's backwards. Let's say that that your the top of your frame on one panel is not going to go all the way to the top. Okay, so let's say that panel 2. So do selected panels and say that panel 3. I like panel 3. And instead of that being 9 feet, make that 8'6", and then add it to the drawing. And it'll reduce the height of that one panel. Okay, so that's what height does. Now delete that. You can do it anywhere. You can select panels, give them different heights. You can make any design you want. It just helps you get the designs out. Alright, the next tab is horizontals, which we know how to do that. The next tab after that is equal horizontals. Now let's say that because we have this drawing here, it's going to be hard to do without messing it up. But let's say you had a simple, say you had a one-panel system, and in that one-panel system you wanted 5 equal horizontals. Then you would say here, add a quantity of 5 horizontals to all panels or a selected panel. Okay, and you'll see that it'll put them in equally spaced apart. Okay, now we're going to go to split. Now split is something that you'll use quite often because you get going with different designs. So you go to click the split tab, go to add, and then here let's say we're going to add a quantity of 1 split. Let's put it right above that door. So we're going to go from panel 2 to panel 2 from a height. And since your horizontal's at 7 feet, that's 84 inches, you're going to say from 84 to a height of 108, which is the top. Now when you click add to the drawing, you're going to see that it'll put a split right in between there. And now when you go to do glass, it will give you that opening and gives you the extra material. So the only thing you can't do is move your split off center. There's other ways to do that if you're building intricate designs, but you can do it with bulkhead and some other things, so creating more panels than making them unequal and then bringing the bulkhead up to make the changes. But when it is one piece and it's just that piece is different, you have to put the splits in, then exclude. There's ways to do it as we get going, but it's not something that you want to mess with right now. So now the next tab is miters. Now that simply means that you're going to miter the edges, and it'll ask you add miter to miter top and bottom. You're going to click miter top and bottom, and you're going to miter the verticals 0, number 0, and you add it to the drawing because the first vertical is always 0, and you see that it mitered those two. And then you can do the same thing to the other. You add it again, and you miter top and bottom, and this time that's 0, 1, 2, 3. The last one is 3 instead of 4. So you're going to miter vertical number 3. When you add it to the drawing, you're going to see that it's mitered those edges, and it'll give you your cut list to help you miter them properly. Okay? So delete those so they come out of your project. Highlight that and delete the second one. Now stops just is for you to add extra stops. Okay, add stops from a panel to a panel at what height you want them at. So if you decide you need to add extra stops, then you put them in this way. Okay, vertical stops, horizontal stops, and then you click add to drawing. I don't ever use that at this point unless I get one that requires specific stops. Okay, now let's say that the next one in there is alternate vertical. And let's say that on the right end of this last panel, it's actually going to connect, go around a corner 90 degrees, and there's another piece of glass there. Okay, so you want to put that corner post on that side. So you will say add, and it'll say add alternate vertical number. So that's number 3, the last one on the right. So you're going to put 3, and then you're going to put your dimensions of how wide it is at 4 inches. Okay, now when you say add to the drawing here, it's going to bring you up a parts list. See? And it has an opening spot there for you to change what that is. Alright, in that box on the right, it says right click in this area to bring up the parts list. Now when you do that, it's going to bring up all your parts list here, and so you can sort by description. That little box at the top left, you pull it up and say you want to sort by description. Alright, now you're going to go down here until you find a 90-degree corner post for your system. Okay, now we're going to go to split. Now split is something that you'll use quite often because you're going with different designs. So you go to click the split tab, go to add, and then here let's say we're going to add a quantity of 1 split. Let's put it right above that door. So we're going to go from panel 2 to panel 2 from a height, and since your horizontal's at 7 feet, that's 84 inches, you're going to say from 84 to a height of 108, which is the top. Now when you click add to the drawing, you're going to see that it'll put a split right in between there. And now when you go to do glass, it will give you that opening and gives you the extra material. So the only thing you can't do is move your split off center. There's other ways to do that if you're building intricate designs, but you can do it with bulkhead and some other things, so creating more panels than making them unequal and then bringing the bulkhead up to make the changes. But when it is one piece and it's just that piece is different, you have to put the splits in, then exclude. There's ways to do it as we get going, but it's not something that you want to mess with right now. So now the next tab is miters. Now that simply means that you're going to miter the edges, and it'll ask you add miter to miter top and bottom. You're going to click miter top and bottom, and you're going to miter the verticals 0, number 0, and you add it to the drawing, because the first vertical is always 0, and you see that it mitered those two. And then you can do the same thing to the other. You add it again, and you miter top and bottom, and this time that's 0, 1, 2, 3. The last one is 3 instead of 4. So you're going to miter vertical number 3. When you add it to the drawing, you're going to see that it's mitered those edges, and it'll give you your cut list to help you miter them properly. Okay? So delete those so they come out of your project. Highlight that and delete the second one. Now stops just is for you to add extra stops. Okay? Add stops from a panel to a panel at what height you want them at. So if you decide you need to add extra stops, then you put them in this way. Okay, vertical stops, horizontal stops, and then you click add to drawing. I don't ever use that at this point unless I get one that requires specific stops. Okay, now let's say that the next one in there is alternate vertical. And let's say that on the right end of this last panel, it's actually going to connect, go around a corner 90 degrees, and there's another piece of glass there. Okay, so you want to put that corner post on that side. So you will say add, and it'll say add alternate vertical number. So that's number 3, the last one on the right. So you're going to put 3, and then you're going to put your dimensions of how wide it is at 4 inches. Okay, now when you say add to the drawing here, it's going to bring you up a parts list. See? And it has an opening spot there for you to change what that is. All right, in that box on the right, it says right-click in this area to bring up the parts list. Now, when you do that, it's going to bring up all your parts list here, and so you can sort by description. That little box at the top left, you pull it up and say you want to sort by description. All right, now you're going to go down here until you find a 90-degree corner post. You'll highlight it, and then you'll click Insert Part, and when you do, it'll put the part in that part number thing right there. Okay, and then it'll change it on the ring, and it'll add those parts to your parts list. Now we don't have that here, so we're going to delete this so that it doesn't mess up our parts list. Okay, now the last thing that's very nice here is an exclude. Okay, now you can come up to this and say, you know, I don't want that vertical on the right, so it'll exclude the vertical. So if you say you want to add here, and you put your cursor, that little dot, up on the one you want to exclude, it'll bring it up and say, okay, we're going to exclude the door jamb. Well, I can't do that, really, but I know. Let's don't do that. Let's do this horizontal down on the bottom right. Okay, so put your on the right hand on panel number 3, go to that horizontal on the bottom right and put your cursor on it and click it, and then when you say update drawing, it'll pull that horizontal out. However, it will give you 2 pieces of glass because it's assuming there has to be something there. Okay, now normally you wouldn't do that with a horizontal. You'd only select the panels you want the horizontal to go to, but it just shows you that you can remove just about any parts you want off of this, exclude it, and it'll take it off the parts list, but it'll show you're still going to fill that with glass. Okay, and sometimes it's done for butt glazing. When you do a framing that's gonna be butt glazed in certain areas, you can remove the framing itself. It'll take it off the parts list, but it'll still give you your glass sizes. Okay, but now, so when we come back to all of that, we've gone through everything that you can do with this, and there's more. Now we're going to finish our elevations because we've got one more elevation to go, which is G. Now we finished those other elevations. Did we do G? Yes, we did G. Now we're going to do J, because this is where we're going to get into the bulkhead. So you notice when you look at page 8.1, J shows that the total height of this window from the floor is so big, but there's so much underneath it that you're gonna start above the floor, 2 feet 2 inches above the floor. So the way you do that, to be absolutely right for your drawings to come out right, you're going to go to the next elevation and you're going to do a J, and then same framing system. Alright, and it's going to give you a clean screen, and now you've got that this is 1J, 1 panel. Alright, and it's 3 feet wide and 7 feet 2 inches high. Okay, so that's what you put in. You go ahead and you've got 1 tab, 1 panel, 3 feet 3 apostrophe wide, or 36 inches, and 7 apostrophe 2 for 7 feet 2 high. Okay, now the next step you're going to make here is you're going to go to the bulk, B-U-L-K, that's for bulkhead. Okay, so now you're going to add a bulkhead, and we've got it all in 1 panel, so all panels are going to be affected, but we're going to put the bulkhead at what we saw here on the plans at 2 feet 2 inches. So here we say either 26 inches or 2 apostrophe 2. Add to the drawing, and you see it will pull that window up and show you that you're 26 inches off the floor line. Okay, so that makes that right. Then you go in and you put the glass in the way you would with the other, and go back to layout. Okay, now we're gonna pause right here for a moment because we're going to start doing all of the. Okay, we've got one more elevation to build, and that is door number 6. You remember on the door. Okay, we've got one more elevation to do, and that is, if you remember on the door schedule, there was a storefront door that didn't go into a system, door number 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next elevation, and we're going to create an elevation called door number 6. So you just type in door number 6, okay, and then you say okay because it's the same framing system. Now you're going to have elevation quantity of 1, and you're going to have panel is 1, tab over, and it's going to be 36 inches, so it's at 36, tab 84, okay. That's going to draw you a 1 panel elevation. Now you're going to go to the door tab, and you're going to add an entrance, and you're going into panel number 1, and you're going to add a frame, and in the frame we're looking for a left-hand door just like before. So you're going to click that first left-hand door, it's butt hung, select, alright, and then you're going to add the door leaf, and you're going to take a left-hand door, which is use the top one, narrow style, and you're going to select that, and you're going to add that. Now you remember, we're going to edit, so we got to go back to layout, come back to door tab, and we're going to edit the door parts, because you remember we need a 12-inch bottom rail. So you're going to do the top rail at 4 inches, you're going to change that to 4, and then you're going to do the bottom rail at 12, and you're going to do the sides at 4, okay, and that'll change that for you. It's narrow still, everything's still the same, and you say okay. Alright, now it's saving the door information, and it put that information in there for you. Okay, now we've finished. We go back to layout. Oh no, we got to go to glass because we're going to put this extra glass in there. Alright, and now we go back to layout. Alright, now we've finished building everything, so the way you check to make sure is to go back to the previous elevation and look at your lettered elevations. It shows up just after next elevation. It says what elevation you're looking at, okay? And you go back through them all to check to make sure you got every elevation on the plan pages, okay? Now once you've done that, you're going to go to the left-hand side up here where it shows vendors and all of that, and you're going to come down here to where it says optimize. Okay, optimizer. Now click optimizer. It's going to bring up a screen for you that you can start to create your list. Now in the middle you'll see there's 2 screens separated by a blue bar and a gray bar. Alright, now it says the step 1 is to get the elevation parts, so click get elevation parts. Okay, now it'll go through, and now you'll see on the top screen it's gotten all the parts in there now, but they say they're not optimized, so you click optimize, and it'll go through its process, and it'll optimize all the parts, and then it'll put them up there. Okay, it sometimes takes a while, depends on how big your project is. Okay, once it optimizes everything, then you can print your final parts list. You can print a lot of different things, but I don't do it from this screen. You can also print the cut list at the bottom, you see. So as that's going through and optimizing and everything, this cut list will be for if you get the job, so that your fabricator can have a list of everything that needs to be cut. Okay, so you'll see at the top is all the parts list, at the bottom is all the cuts. And just so you can get a look at it, go ahead and click the print cut list. Okay, it'll take it a minute to produce it, but what it'll bring it up is how many pieces you have to be cut, what sizes. So it's very good for your fabrication if you do that. It takes a little time for that to come up, but wait for it so that you can see it. Alright, now when it comes up, it's going to show you all of the pieces you need and what lengths they are. Okay, and you can get them per elevation, you can get them how you want to do it. It'll bring everything up for you, and this is for if you do the job. Okay, so you'll see where it shows you all the cut lists, all the things you need, the sizes you need to cut. Alright, okay, so you can X out of that and close this, because what you're going to do now is underneath optimizer is final parts list. Now when you click that, it's going to give you a list of all the parts you need, the quantities, the part numbers, the description, and in some cases you're going to have a price if the catalog is updated. In most cases you're going to have a price, and it's going to give you a total price down here without a markup. Okay, I mean without a multiplier. Now you'll see in this it says multiplier is 1. Well, A lot of times your multiplier might be 0.655 or 0.488, but it'll be different for stock, linked material, and miscellaneous and things like that. You can put that multiplier in and it'll get you closer to the quote price. But I generally don't use it because I'm going to get a quote from the supplier, and that's what I'm going to use. And when we get down to the markup report and everything, you just change those numbers once your quote comes in, okay? But what you want to do here to get a list you can send to your supplier to quote is down at the bottom of the blue, you'll see is print without prices, okay? You click that so when you print this out, it won't include any of the pricing, okay? And when you print the report, it'll produce a PDF for you, okay? And so if you click print report right now, it's going to produce a PDF page with all the parts lists, what job it is, who the estimator is, what the finish is, and all of that type of stuff. You can add phone numbers and fax numbers and things like that for yourself so that they can get back to you. But I do it this way because I email out my parts list and everything. I don't like to fax things. I like to email so I can add things to it. If I want to add the spec page to it that covers the finish and the system, I can add that to what I'm sending my supplier. Okay, so you've got all of these things that you can do. There's many other things that this will do, but mainly what you want is everything that gives you all the parts you need so you can get a price on it. Okay, so now you can print that out, and if you don't have a PDF printer driver, you can get one for free through GDS. They've got a thing on their homepage where you can download a free PDF printer so that you can print them out for yourself. Okay, and or you can just print the thing out to file. I do it to PDF because it's easy to send it, but you can also print it out into Microsoft Excel too. In the printing section, I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now you've got the parts list, and now you close that. I always save a copy of what I'm sending out. Then you go to the final glass list. Okay. Final glass list will give you the same kind of thing, and at the bottom you can print without prices, and it will print you out a report of all the cut pieces of glass that you need, and you can see them there because you've added them into your system. And then in this case, I can also email that. You're going to print it out to a PDF because I email it out with that. If you're going to fax it, you can just print it out to the screen, and it'll print it for you. And then I can add the glass spec if I want to when I send it to the glass supplier. Okay. So now you've got your final parts list and you've got your final glass list. You notice on the parts list too, the doors are there and the door frames and everything else that you needed. Okay. Now you can print them out by elevation too. You can print parts list by elevations if you need to, but that's more once you get the job than when you're bidding the job. Okay. Now we go right down the list because we're putting all our stuff together to make this bid happen. So the next thing under there is labor. And if you've gone through the first section where we set up your labor, then all of your labor stuff is already set up. If you have not, then you need to go down to labor defaults and remember to go in and put all the information in of what to use. Now that we covered in the first lesson, in lesson 4. If you haven't seen that, I'm not going to go through it here. You need to go back and watch that lesson and set up your labor. So right here we apply the labor defaults, and it'll apply them, and you say OK. Then you say process the labor, it'll process it, and you say OK. Then the last tab down there says print labor final summary. And when you click that, you're going to get the same thing. You're going to get a labor report showing you exactly how many hours this computer calculates for fabrication, installation, for glazing, for entrances, all across the board. And it'll do a final price based on the pricing that you said would cost. Okay, so this is then cost. So you have fabrication hours and fabrication cost, install hours and installation cost, miscellaneous hours and miscellaneous cost, entrance hours and entrance cost, and then glazing hours, and it gives you your totals. And if you ever had to add anything to it, there's a place in there that you can add, but I do that by hand instead of having a computer calculate anything. Same thing again, you go to print it out. You can print it out in paper just for yourself so that you have it, or you can go ahead and print it out all the way down the line. Alright, now you're coming to the end of the bid process, because as you start getting your quotes back, I want you to click the markup on the other side. You'll notice it gives you a markup report here. Okay. Now under the reporting symbol, when we went through and showed you in lesson 4 how to set it up, you can set it up so all these percentages come up every time. But you can also make changes as you go. Now, you're going to have prices here. This is all geared towards storefront and curtain wall. Okay. I use this system to help me with other type of bidding, but this is storefront and curtain wall. So it's going to give you all your stock material price, your miscellaneous prices, your door prices, and glass and other material. Okay, so hardware always goes in the other material for me, and it totals it for you. Then it puts your labor figure up there of what you computed for labor. Okay, if you have surcharges, this is where you stick them in underneath labor. On over to the right, you've got outside costs. So like if you have a subcontractor doing caulking, or you got a subcontractor doing automatic doors, but they're under you, then you put those costs there, and you split the cost. And then equipment leases and things like that, you put that there. Miscellaneous, I usually add something for shop drawings there, because you know you're going to need them. And then underneath in the markup rates, you're going to put the percentage of markup that it's going to do for each one of these things. Okay. Then you got your tax rates over here in the second column at the bottom, and you're going to put whatever the sales tax is that you've got to add to it. You'll notice to the right, it's all calculating out if you had a surcharge for metal or glass, and what the total surcharge was. And it's going to tell you what your material markup is, what you're making in profit. And it's going to tell you your labor markups, and what you're making profit for labor, and then it's going to add your tax to it. And you'll notice underneath it's giving you a grand total. That's what your bid's going to be. You can adjust these percentages to change that bid amount. Now you'll notice over here under perimeter and level footage, it tells you what the perimeter foot is of the job. Now if you went through lesson 4, then you knew to set up for your caulking and everything, so it's included in this. Alright. Then it gives you a cost per linear foot and a cost per square foot. These are things that just help you as you go. Okay. Now that'll always come up under job cost. Here's the information you can put in. If you click the first one, it gives you information about the job itself. Okay, job info that will go on a cover sheet, to go on the sheet when you print out the markup report. Okay, and under job notes over here is where you're going to put in exclusions and things like that. So your markup report will give you a complete picture of everything. So when you do your bid letter, everything's here. You can use those if you want to. Okay. When you're finished with that, you say print it, and it'll pull up a page, and it'll show you what the markup report's going to look like when you print it out. And this is where the top part is where you've added in the job information that you need to add. Okay, and then the bottom part will come up with the sections, being the exclusions and notes and things of that nature. So this thing can be as big as you want it to be to help you. So you use it what's best for helping you. Okay. Now the other things we're going to talk about here are after you've gotten the job. Okay. Now when you go to the last one here is the job summary. Job summary is going to give you joint counts and areas and what your total costs were and things like that, and you can put summary notes in here for yourself. Okay. But you can print that out as well. And when you bottom of that screen, you'll see a thing that says reports, which lets you say what you're going to have it print, what scale, and that kind of thing. Okay, for summary reports, for final summary, for that kind of thing. You can set that up then any way you want it to do. Okay. So once you close that and close the final summary, we're going to get into some other areas here that will help you after you've gotten the job. Now you got shop drawings. Shop drawings are the next thing. Under the drawing settings, it's going to, we went through in 4, it's going to set up your shop drawings as to what you need. When you click shop drawings, it's going to set up all the elevations that you produced and set them up so that you can print out the shop drawings. Now, if you set up in your drawing settings that you wanted all the details on one page, as many details on one page as possible, it'll print them that way. Otherwise, it'll print one detail per page. And Once you have that going, you select the other drawings, and you can print out the elevation drawing itself and all of the detail pages. So most of your shop drawing stuff is taken care of. Then you only have to pay a draftsman to put it all together nice and neat in plan pages. It will do all the drawings for you. It's going to make it a lot cheaper for your shop drawing costs. Okay. Now CAD we're not going to get into because I don't teach CAD, but you've got underneath that a system defaults we went through in lesson 4 to set everything up, and labor defaults we went through in lesson 4. So this concludes how you're going to do a bid with this and how to use GDS for making your life a lot easier for these drawings. All these reports, if you find later on that you made a change and that you wanted to go and you want to go in and change a part or something like that, all you do is change the part within the elevations and print out the new reports, and everything's changed. Everything is covered. So you don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel if you find out that an addendum comes out and something changed right before you're ready to go to bid. You can make the change very easily in here, and it will adjust everything for you. Okay? So I encourage you to use GDS. You've got a 30-day free trial to use it with. Use it on other jobs. And feel free to give me a call or send me an email if you have any questions. Good luck with your GDS.